What's going on, everybody? My name is Ryan Thomas, and you're tuning into the Thomas Take Sports Podcast live on GrandstandSportsNetwork.com, as well as Facebook, as well as Twitter, as well as YouTube. Obviously, I've been far more active with my Twitter account than I have been in the last year. I'm finally starting to figure out how to use it. I don't know why. It just took me a little bit. Took me a year or two, actually, figuring out how to use it, and I'm really enjoying communicating with the listeners and the viewers. People can view the show on Facebook/Thomas Takeover. They can also tune into the show, as I mentioned, on Grandstand Sports Network, a great site, a Podern family, if you will. So here I am back again on the Thomas Take. I am very excited for this Wednesday afternoon show, and I wanted to kick it off with a topic inside the world of Major League Baseball. There's been a lot of big news as far as signings and things like that, but some other big news that I wanted to address at the start of today's show is comments that were made by Mets general manager Sandy Alderson in regards to Tim Tebow, a name that we all know very well, dating back to his playing days at Florida, dating back to his playing days in the NFL. It's well known now that Tim Tebow has made the move from the football world to the baseball world, playing for the Port St. Lucie Mets last season, moving into advanced Single A. Mets GM Sandy Alderson said a few days ago that Tim Tebow will play in the major leagues in 2018, could quite possibly play in the major leagues in 2018, and that is the expectation that the Mets have for Tim Tebow. Now, it's well known that I am a avid Tim Tebow fan. I'm a true believer in Tim Tebow. I admire Tim Tebow, and I believe that his NFL career got cut short. I don't know why his career was cut as short as it was. I think he's far better than some of the third stringers and some of the backups in the league. Whether or not he's a starter is another story. But I definitely believe in the man. I think that he's a true inspiration to many, many people, millions and millions of people. And him making this jump from football to baseball, essentially closing the book or turning the page on his football career, is another admirable quality for him to somewhat admit that the game has somewhat passed him by in terms of football, and to start a new chapter of his life, a new career, if you will. I do not see this. I never have seen this as a publicity stunt. Tim Tebow doesn't do anything for attention. Tim Tebow does something because he believes in himself and he believes in his will. And I think that is truly admirable. I think that there's a lot of people in this world that could follow Tim Tebow's influence. But I want to let the point be clear that there is a catch to this. There is a catch to what Sandy Alderson is saying, the GM of the New York Mets. There's a huge catch. The catch is this. Tim Tebow could very well play in the major leagues in 2018. Tim Tebow should probably play in the major leagues in 2018 because business-wise, it makes 100% sense for Tim Tebow to play in the major leagues, and I'm going to tell you why. Is it because of his ability? Do I think he's a decent baseball player for someone that got into the game a little bit late? Obviously, he's in his 30s. Maybe if he had turned the page on his football career a little sooner, and went into baseball a little bit sooner than he did, I think his opportunity would be there more so. But although he's 30, or in his 30s, I believe he's 30, 29 or 30, one of the two. Although he is in his 30s, I do believe he would only make the major leagues due in large part that he would sell tickets. He would bring in money for a New York Mets team that is not very good, for a New York Mets team that has been desperate for, somewhat attention in the last few years. Granted, a few years ago they were representing the National League in the World Series in 2015, but ever since then, it appears as if their team has somewhat fallen off a cliff. Things have gone completely awry for the New York Mets. Matt Harvey isn't what he once was. Noah Syndergaard has battled injuries. Jake DeGrom, I would say, is probably their best starter out of those three. due to the fact that he has stayed virtually healthy and he hasn't had too many issues in comparison to Syndergaard and Harvey. I mean, on the mound. And then in the lineup, I mean, they are not that great. They have some holes to fill. They lost a guy by the name of Daniel Murphy, who was great for the Mets, went to the Washington Nationals, and Daniel Murphy himself has, quote-unquote, tutored Tim Tebow in the offseason. And I do believe, I want to let this be clear, I do believe, I want to be clear about this, I want to let this be known, I should say. I do believe that Tim Tebow deserves this shot. Deserves the chance to get better as a baseball player. People talked about how this was stupid, how this is a publicity stunt. Tim Tebow played baseball in high school at a very high level, was a highly recruited baseball player out of high school, chose football as his original athletic path, and when that didn't work out, he decided to see this through. And while he's still in his athletic prime, I think that was great for him to do that. But I do believe, had he done it a little bit earlier, his chances of being a successful baseball player would be a little bit better. Do I think he's got a chance to be a successful minor league player? Sure. But do I think that if he were to be called up to the majors, would he be, this dominant major league player? I highly doubt it, just based on the fact that he got into this so late. He has raw athletic talent in the sport of baseball. He can throw, he can catch, he can run, and he can hit for power. He has intangibles as a baseball player that make him interesting. I've followed this, curve in his career very closely. He hit 238, not great, not, what you would want from a guy, that is, trying to work his way up. And obviously guys that have hit 238, not named Tim Tebow, have not been called up. That's the issue with this whole situation, is that Tim Tebow will probably get called up. He will probably make the major leagues, due in large part of the fact of his name. I think he is working very hard. I think he's doing his due diligence at becoming a better baseball player. But I would almost compare it to CM Punk trying out for, fighting in the UFC. I don't think it's that bad. I think Tim Tebow has far more intangibles as a baseball player than CM Punk does as an MMA fighter. But in terms of how far behind he is, I think Tim Tebow is very far behind in terms of moving on to the next level of baseball, which would be AA, then AAA, then the major leagues. He's got 2 levels, I should say, to get to in order to become a major leaguer, but he'll probably skip past those levels due in large part of the fact that he is who he is. He's a huge name, one of the most famous names in the sports world, one of the most famous names in the world. If anything, his football career, coming to an end the way it did, in the fashion that it did, lended itself to his name becoming bigger and better to the fact that he could do things outside of the sport to grow his quote-unquote celebrity. Good Morning America, College Game Day on ESPN, commentating college football games, which he is fantastic at. He's a great college football analyst. I actually really enjoy his work, and I enjoy him as a person. I really wish that this man could have been given more of a shot. I have so many debates with people on that. They say, well, he played for the Broncos, he played for the Jets, he got the opportunity with the Eagles and the Patriots, and it didn't work out. That's true, but I would have liked to have seen him actually make a final roster and see what he could do as a backup. I thought Philly was a good fit for him. That didn't pan out, obviously. I thought New England was a good fit for him. That didn't pan out either. So, virtually those were the last 2 teams with coaches like Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and Chip Kelly at the time, who would have warranted giving Tim Tebow a fair shot in the National Football League, and it didn't work out for better or for worse. That, remains to be seen. I think it was for the better, due to the fact that Tim Tebow has so much more to live for outside of sports, whether it's football or baseball. Tim Tebow has so much more to live for, so much more to contribute to our society as a human being than most NFL or MLB players even dream of. So I hope that this works out. I hope that it does work out for the guy. I hope that he is able to do very well in his, bid and his quest, shall I say, to become a major league player. I hope that it works out. I hope that he can get past the somewhat peaks and valleys of a baseball player, of an aspiring baseball player, of an aspiring baseball player's career. And I think that we're definitely going to see him move up the ladder this year. If the Mets are below 500 and it's, August, which I think they will be, I definitely could see Tim Tebow getting a few weeks in the majors to close out the season for the New York Mets, putting butts in the seats, putting fans in the stands, and allowing Tim Tebow to have his shining moment that has eluded him thus far, the last few years as an athlete. So I'm Ryan Thomas. That was part one of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast today. Sandy Alderson believes that Tim Tebow will be in the major leagues, but there is the catch. The catch is that he probably will be, but it won't be because of his baseball playing ability. It'll be for his ability to put butts in the seats. Tebow Mania could be at Citi Field, coming to a Citi Field near you in Queens, New York, in 2018. Many exciting headlines in the sport of baseball. I'm going to talk about the next exciting headline in the sport of baseball. We got a couple moves that have been made between the Red Sox and the New York Yankees that definitely warrant some chatter. I'm really excited for this baseball season. I think that this is going to be a fantastic year. You have the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Astros, the defending World Series champs. In my opinion, until someone beats them in the playoffs, I am not ready to say that they are not the favorite to repeat, because they have only gotten better the last few months. This offseason, they've only gotten better. They've traded for Garrett Cole. They still have Justin Verlander locked up. Springer, Altuve, Correa. Very excited to see how that pans out again this season. That threesome of players, Springer, Correa, and Altuve, are the real nucleus of that Astros team. I'm going to talk about that in the next part of the Thomas Take. You are listening to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on Grandstand Sports Network. I'm Ryan Thomas. We'll be right back.